Hello everyone, my name is Jessica Sennett. I am the CEO and founder of Mighty Mom, and welcome to your breathing through exercise video. Once you learn the foundation, the core breathing, how to engage your muscles properly for proper function, we need to go the next steps, because it's one thing to find your core breathing lying down in tabletop position when you're really focusing on your breathing. But we all know that we don't spend most of our time lying on the ground. We're up, we're living our lives, we're chasing children, we're at work, we're doing all these things. Not to mention in our workouts, we're in all different positions. And a question that I always get asked is, how do I breathe during certain movements? Where do I breathe? How do I breathe? This is the video that's gonna explain everything. But the first thing I'm going to even start with is that it's going to look different for everyone. The more educated and experienced I get working with so many different types of clients is that there's not one way to do everything. So I'm gonna show you a couple of options, actually 4 specific options, and then tell you in what situations they might work for you. But then it's gonna be up to you to figure out what works and feels best for your body. There's so many different things, and I would never tell a client is wrong or right. So this video is just gonna give you some options and kind of what to look out for when we're going through exercise to maybe make the right decisions for your body. I hope that made sense. So there's 4 specific ways that we're going to kind of look at breathing. And the first one, I kind of named it, is breathing through the change. Now, not everything we need to do needs a huge, big breath and a pelvic floor contraction. We actually don't want a ton of tension in our body if we don't need it. Our core muscles are reflexive, which means they're always working, and they're managing the pressure as needed. If you're sitting at home watching this video, the reason you're not, kind of keeling over at your ribs is because there's a certain amount of pressure already happening. And some of the things that we do in our everyday life don't need a lot of core engagement. They are very low pressure exercises: sitting, standing, walking with your stroller. I'm not really doing anything now. Do I need to be breathing, over squeezing my pelvic floor? No. Adding a ton of tension in our body where we don't need it isn't going to be super helpful. So this breathing through the change is exactly for situations like this. So warm-ups, for example, very low pressure exercises. I'm going to give you a couple of examples from some of the programs that we do here at Mighty Mom. So some knee raises. These are very low pressure exercises. Do we need to breathe on every rep? No. We don't, okay? That's a lot. It's a little intense, it's a little overkill. We're gonna breathe through the change. That simply means I'm gonna breathe where I feel that I need to breathe. Does it need to be on every rep? No, I'm gonna show you. I'm finding a rhythm that works for my body. I'm just making sure that I'm breathing nice and low, right? Breathing with our diaphragm and not holding my breath. But do I have to breathe on every rhythm? No, I'm kind of following the own rhythm of my body. Same for an exercise, like lateral lunges. Inhale, exhale. So a lot of our warm-up exercises, a lot of our cool downs, a lot of what we do in our everyday life, you don't have to overly tax your brain on where do I breathe. You just need to just do it. Your body knows what to do, I promise. Breathing through the change, that's the first one. The second one is exhale on exertion. This is the most popular one, the one if you're fitness people, been working out forever. This is what I was trained on as a trainer. It's the most common, I would say, and that's to exhale, find tension on the hardest part of the exercise. Usually it's the concentric part, the muscle shortening phase of an exercise. So I'm gonna give you guys the example of a squat, right? You're gonna inhale on the way down, exhale on the way up from a squat, because that's the hardest part. So here's the example of that. All right, so inhale on the way down, exhale. Now when we exhale, obviously we know there's a slight pelvic floor lift, hug belly button up and in towards rib to find the support that we need for the hardest part of the exercise. Especially, I put a dumbbell here just for this purpose. If it's a heavier dumbbell, we have a weight on our chest, inhale down, exhale, extend. Inhale down, exhale, extend. Now, this goes for any sort of weight-bearing exercise, right? Where we're lifting, we need extra support. So lunges, rows, and to kind of further One other thing we want to talk about when we think about exhale and exertion, a really famous pelvic floor PT called Julie Wiebe, she coined the phrase blow before you go, which is just an extension of this, is the exhale the second before you exert yourself so that you're engaged to support. I like these as an example for rows, like a bent over row, and I'm gonna show you right now. So inhale, exhale the second before, then row. This supports my core, protects my back as I'm rowing a big heavy weight towards my body. Inhale, exhale, row. Now you might want to go on the row or the second before. You see, it's a little bit different. This is where do what works for you comes into play. You can blow before your go or exhale on exertion. They're kind of the same, but again, you want to figure out what works best for you as you're lifting, right? Now, the third is we call it a foundational breath, which means if you need a little bit more support throughout the entire exercise, you can breathe throughout the entire exercise. So this is really good in later stages of pregnancy. This is really good if you're dealing with a weaker pelvic floor, you have prolapse, you're feeling heaviness in your pelvic floor, you have symptoms, and you need a pelvic floor lift the entire time. So I'm gonna show you the example through a squat, right? So inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, all the way through. I'm trying to breathe and talk at the same time, doesn't always work itself out, but you got the picture, right? Same for lunges. Inhale at the top, exhale. So I'm getting a slight pelvic floor lift, an engaged core throughout the entire part of the exercises. Now, we don't use this as much, but those circumstances that I just said, you might need to switch. And if you're feeling symptoms or if you're getting signs and symptoms of core dysfunction, heaviness, leaking, you might want to switch to this type of breath for certain exercises. Just because you breathe that way in one exercise doesn't mean you're going to breathe that way for, all the exercises. Like again, we're doing different breathing strategies for different things and making sure you feel good as you go. And the fourth way to breathe, which I almost never use, is a breath hold or a Valsalva. If you are a heavy lifter, an Olympic lifter, you're lifting heavy, like 4 to 3 rep max, which if you're doing any one of our at-home programs, you may not get there ever, but I want to state this here because, it's part of exercise and you might be watching this if you're a heavy lifter, and I want you to know that it's totally safe to breath hold if you need that extra support. When we breath hold, it locks off your windpipe, so it gives you a little bit more extra support. The only thing that I want you to be mindful of is when you breath hold and you use a Valsalva is that we're spreading the load evenly. So an example of this, pretend this is so heavy, 100, a big, big weight here, okay? But I'm just doing this for a demo. Inhale. You're gonna exhale at the top, okay? Inhale, hold your breath, exhale, right? So when I'm holding my breath, I'm making sure not to press into my pelvic floor. I'm really thinking about pressing out into my ribs, spreading the pressure evenly so that I'm not necessarily pushing one way or the other and kind of putting a lot of load on maybe an already weakened pelvic floor system, okay? Not a pelvic floor system, the pelvic floor, all right? Like I said, a breath hold is something that we use very rarely in our programs if it's an at-home program, but it is something to be aware of, and that if you are doing that, be sure to work with a coach, one of our trainers, to properly know that you're spreading the load and the pressure evenly when you do that in your exercise. Okay, you guys, so that's breathing through exercise. I hope that made going through your workouts and knowing when to breathe and how to breathe easier for you. And I want to remind you that we're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. We don't have to be perfect breathers all the time, but this is just helpful as we go through to help you manage pressure well, to reduce signs and symptoms of core dysfunction, and to enjoy your workouts and get the most out of our workouts, because that's why we're all here. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and I'll see you guys in the gym. Bye.